Let's go back to ArcGIS.com and talk about what kind of results came back when we searched for Fiji. There are web maps, which are a collection of layers that someone has put together for a visualization purpose, and then there are actual layers, like this feature layer, and a feature layer has a collection of points, lines, and polygons that we can download. There are also going to be some imagery layers here, which, depending on your situation, you might be able to use it, but if it's hosted by somebody else, it might be difficult for you to use it in your project. When we were here before, I clicked on the Fiji schools layer, so let's look at that in more detail. We have an option to open it in the map viewer and take a closer look visually, but I use this service URL to try and download the data. At the bottom of this, you can see the query, and in this form, I'm going to set where 1 equals 1, so that's always true. And for output fields, put a star for all of them. There are several things you could do here if you want to limit it to a special geospatial area, but I'm trying to download everything. At the bottom of the page, I can select GeoJSON format, query get, and this will come back with all of the points, and I'll use a very typical coordinate system. So let me save that as GeoJSON. We can use that in a lot of different projects. Back on the item page, you might want to know what other layers have been created by this person. So we can click on the user, can learn a little bit about them. We can click items to see everything that they've uploaded. So here we can see some more situation-specific maps they might have created with population, with earthquake imagery. There are some really cool items that you can find on ArcGIS.com, and even if you can't download it, you can demo it to someone as a really interesting example of what people do in the GIS world. This being a post-earthquake imagery project. Looks like this imagery isn't showing up. Let's go back to the search that we did here. Let's say there's a web map that you found that was really interesting. For example, this shows the poverty rate and proportion of children in a census. So you can view all of this on the map, or you can find you can go directly to some of the layers that make up the map. So let's click on the age and sex layer. So here we're going from a web map to a feature layer, which we might be able to use. Here I don't see a map service URL. When I go up here to open a map viewer, there's not any additional options, but there is this source feature collection thing. If I click that, I'm going to get this huge block of data, and it's using a different spatial reference that means that these coordinates are applicable to your map, but probably different from what you're expecting. The main point that I want to get across, though, is almost every data set that you find on ArcGIS.com, you can find the source data and then, using some GIS knowledge, convert it to something where you can use it in your own project. It's up to you as a developer to make sure that the data that you're using is accurate and not restricted in use.